Okay, this is the answer to the higher question in the motions. A student uses the apparatus in figure 1 to find out which of the two materials, sand or sawdust, is the better insulator. So we've got this material, a small copper can, a large copper can, sand and sawdust. You guys will have used these before. School doesn't use these just because they get everywhere. We used material instead. You might have wrapped something in tin foil or in cloth. The student also has a kettle to boil water, a thermometer and a stop clock. Draw a labelled diagram to show how a student could set up the equipment to investigate which material is the better insulator. Right, when we did this experiment, we had our large copper can on the outside and we had a small copper can on the inside. We then put our material in here, our insulation. So we wrapped this small one in lots and lots of fabric and then put it inside of the big one. In this case, they're not using material, they're using sand and sawdust. So our insulation is going to go in here. Right, this is our sand or our sawdust. I'm also going to label the other cans I've got in here. I've got my small can and I've got my large can there. You then fill the small can with hot water and measure how the temperature changes over time. So we're also going to include the thermometer. You get a mark for having apparatus labelled. You get a mark for having the thermometer inside of the water, and you get a mark for the arrangement of the water in the insulator. So when I marked this last year, a lot of people had put the insulation, the sand and the sawdust inside of the water, which is a really bad idea. Wet sawdust is just going to turn to like a brick, right? We want to keep those separate. We're testing to see how good they are, not how well they mix with water. It then says give 3 other factors that the student must control in this investigation. So if we're controlling them, we are keeping them the same. So in one investigation, we're doing this with the sand, and in another, we're doing this with the sawdust. The first thing that comes to mind for me is the volume or the thickness of how much of this we're using, the sand and the sawdust. So I'm going to keep the volume of the insulator the same, right? If I only put that much sand in, but with my sawdust one, I filled the entire large copper can, obviously it's going to do better because there's more of it to insulate the water inside. We need the volume of the insulator to be the same. Other things, we're looking at the volume of the water. You could have said the initial temperature of the water. Last thing you can say is the time interval between when you're measuring the temperature, so the time between measurements. And that's it.